Hoffman was thrown out of Marquis Valentino's house, the door slamming shut behind him. As he walked away, resentment burned within him as he wondered how they could dare treat him in such a way. He began to question whether targeting Marquis Valentino first had been a mistake. After all, through the Karo Rebellion and the Kronos War, the Valentino family's bond with Roman Dmitri must have deepened considerably. He reflected bitterly that Marquis Valentino had grown too sentimental, too old, entrusting the family's future to foolish emotions. Shaking his head in disgust, he dismissed the thought. Deciding it no longer mattered, his next destination would be the headquarters of the Golden Bank. There, he believed failure was not an option. With determined strides, he headed toward the carriage, declaring that they would return to the Valhalla Empire. The scene then shifted to the Valhalla Empire, at the Muriel Grand Estate. Upon arrival, Hoffman remarked that they met again in this place, but his words froze midway when he saw Count Fabius present. Shocked, he demanded to know why that man was there. Count Muriel calmly replied that Fabius had a prior appointment and politely offered to. And he'd guided Hoffman to another reception room. Hoffman's jaw tightened, and he cast them both a cold, cutting glance before following in silence. A short while later, in the reception room, Hoffman inquired after Count Muriel's father. Muriel replied that his father was in good health, well enough to consider returning to active duty, and that retirement had become dull for him. He now spent his days tending his garden. Muriel added that his father wished to thank Hoffman personally for the gift he had sent and curiously asked where Hoffman had managed to find such rare herbs. Leaning back with a confident air, Hoffman replied boastfully that there was nothing in the world money could not accomplish. He said he had gone to special lengths for someone of great importance. Then his expression hardened as he shifted the conversation toward his true purpose, explaining that the reason he had come to the Muriel family was because of Roman Dmitri. Count Muriel, visibly uneasy, acknowledged this with a brief response. Hoffman, the head of the Golden Bank, went on to assert that Roman had completely lost his mind, perhaps becoming arrogant after defeating the Kronos Empire. He claimed that Roman had even threatened his life during a business meeting. Hoffman explained that the Golden Bank intended to financially isolate the Dmitri family. When he noted that Count Muriel was currently trading in Dmitri steel and requested that all dealings with them be ceased. In return, he promised that the bank would supply steel at a lower price and waive the interest on Muriel's loans. Count Muriel drew a deep breath before replying that he could not accept such a request. Hoffman's eyes narrowed in disbelief. Muriel continued, saying that while he would like to take Hoffman's side if possible, the Muriel family were merchants first and foremost. He explained that Dmitri steel was irreplaceable, the highest quality on the continent, and that Valhalla's warriors would accept nothing else. Without it, they could not monopolize the market, which was his first reason for refusal. Listening to his reasoning, Hoffman thought that he understood, but he questioned inwardly whether such justification was truly worth turning one's back on the Golden Bank. Muriel went on, stating that the second reason was even more important. He reminded Hoffman that the Dmitri family had led the swordsmanship revolution, and shared their knowledge generously. The Muriel family's livelihood depended on the strength of their warriors. And if they went against the current of the Dmitri family's real military power, the consequences would be disastrous. A representative of the Muriel family bowed deeply, pleading that Hoffman understand their position for the sake of the ancestral ties between their houses. Hoffman exhaled heavily, realizing at last why Roman Dmitri had been so confident. His shoulders slumped in defeat, and he muttered to himself like a beaten dog that there was now only one person left. Marquis Valentino, the great financier of the Kingdom Alliance. Hoffman thought of him as a man much like himself, not one of loyalty, but one who would always put profit first. Clenching his fist with renewed determination, Hoffman vowed silently that not everything would go Roman Dmitri's way. The first meeting had been by coincidence, the second by fate, and the third by inevitability. Hoffman froze mid-step, shocked to see the familiar face once more, and demanded to know why Count Fabius was there again. Count Fabius only grinned broadly, remarking that they met again. Count Vincent then intervened. He explained that both Hoffman and Count Fabius had scheduled appointments at the same time. Since they appeared to have come for the same purpose, he had arranged a three-way meeting instead. He suggested that they proceed together. Straightening his posture and regaining his composure, Hoffman acknowledged that Count Vincent seemed to understand the situation well. He clarified that the relationship between Roman Dmitri and the Golden Bank was over, with no intention of restoring it. Getting straight to the point, he urged Count Vincent to cease all trade with Dmitri. In return, Hoffman promised that the Vincent family would be accepted into the Golden Bank. Hoffman explained that the Golden Bank was a lending institution where members of the Golden Line could borrow money on their name alone, a rare privilege. He added that the bank would purchase Vincent's goods at low prices, and introduce him to existing Golden Line companies. Vincent chuckled softly, his eyes gleaming with calculation. He thought to himself that this was a chance to kill two birds with one stone, or perhaps something even better. He then admitted that it was indeed a good offer, but reminded Hoffman that his family's base was within the Kingdom Alliance, and thus he could not ignore the political implications of such a move. Hoffman questioned why the Count insisted on remaining confined within what he called the small well of the Kingdom of Sank, promising instead to help him establish a base in the Kronos or Valhalla empires. Count Vincent then turned slowly toward Count Fabius, and asked what he thought of the offer. Fabius paused for a few seconds before replying that it seemed like a very good deal to him as well. Both Hoffman and Vincent looked confused by his response. Vincent thought that something about the situation felt wrong. He then asked Fabius if he truly meant it was acceptable for him to join hands with the Golden Bank. Fabius calmly replied that Roman Dmitri had no intention of granting any special favors to the Vincent family, nor could he offer the same terms as the Golden Bank. Very well, if that is Dmitri's stance, Count Vincent remarked. Before he could finish, Fabius leaned forward with intensity and asked, "As you can see, are all members of the Golden Line truly equal?" Vincent, confused, asked what Fabius meant. Fabius's voice dropped and grew more serious. "Face reality," he said. "Do you really believe they will stand by you to the end as allies? The Golden Bank is the sort that swallows you when things are sweet, and spits you out when they turn bitter." Hoffman's face flushed with rage. He flew into a fury, pounded the table violently, knocked over a wine goblet, and warned Fabius to watch his tongue. Fabius remained calm. "The Golden Bank is a power built on credit," he replied. "But Roman Dmitri does not betray relationships once formed. That is the only promise I can give to the Vincent family." Pointing an accusing finger at Vincent, Hoffman urged him not to be swayed by empty words, reminding him how precious it was to join the Golden Line. Vincent closed his eyes and weighed the two offers in silence. He reasoned that the Golden Bank carried risks of discrimination and betrayal, but Roman Dmitri had shown he kept the relationships he formed. What he needed most at that moment was reliability. Slowly, he rose from his seat, bowed respectfully, and accepted Count Fabius's offer. "I will stand with Dmitri," he stated. He believed people were mistaken about one thing: pragmatists do not act recklessly. Hoffman's face contorted with fury. He shouted at Vincent for daring to refuse his offer, hurling insults and vowing that either the Golden Bank or he himself would drag both Vincent and Roman Dmitri into ruin. Count Fabius's eyes flashed dangerously. Fixing Hoffman with an intimidating look, he warned him, "Lower your voice, unless you want to."